everybody. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Finance, Thursday, May 15th. They're a half hour early with the siren.
Sorry, could you just tilt the microphone for a second?
What?
There's a,
I got it.
I think that's actually a call. Well, there's a
No,
reason
what did
why
you
it's
just
a
say?
call.
Yeah, there's a call.
No, he had to move it.
We're gonna start over. Nick, ready? I'm gonna wait for the siren to be over. Maybe I should just go. It's a regular meeting, Board of Finance, Thursday, May 15th, 6 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. We do have a quorum. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
All right, the first thing we need to do is amend the agenda to include an item 5A, which is the discussion of Moody's report. Can I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so when we get to that part of the evening, we will discuss that submission. In the meantime, agenda item number 2, the administrative officer's report.
Thank you. The report for April of 2025, and that's a budget surplus of about $450,000, which would leave us with a fund balance of about $9 million at the end of the year. Interest income continues to perform well, and we have a consistent, for the past few months, a surplus of $250,000 in that account. Charge for services is a deficit projected of about $200,000. Building permit fees and transfer station fees are the two primary issues, and we will have a shortfall in rental income due to the lost rental income from the child center. However, I have noticed the building permit fees picking up a little, so that may offset that a little bit. Just the last week or so, we've had some significant building permit fees
I
come
would
in.
have thought that had gone up because of the building down in Lower Wood.
It has gone
She
up in
told
terms of how
others.
much we're collecting. It's just the
Gotcha.
budget that was projected may be a little
Understood. Okay.
on the high
Okay.
side. The Registrar of Voters has a projected surplus of $20,000 due to savings in part-time wages. Similar in the building official, surplus about $14,000, also due to part-time wage savings. There's a surplus in waste management, about $35,000. That's related to the shortfall in fees in municipal solid waste, and they sort of offset each other. We had some reduction in tonnage over the winter that saved us some money on the expenditure side, but also cost us some fees on the revenue side. Human Services has been down several staff members, you probably are aware,
Yeah.
and therefore they should have a surplus in their account, probably $35,000 this year. The Amity Regional School District reported a surplus of just over $1 million, which they reduced our March payment of $353,000 as our portion. We used $151,000 to offset the asbestos-related expenditures, so we have about $200,000 remaining in that account. And finally, our benefits will see a modest surplus of about $25,000.
Questions?
Those are the highlights.
Tony, the surplus that comes back from Amity, is that returned allocated the same way that they charge us?
Yes. Yeah.
Same percentage?
Same percentages for the year in which the surplus was generated.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? You want to talk about the audit update?
Sure. The auditors, our new audit firm, has been gathering information. When we have a first year of an audit, there's a lot of information that they need that you wouldn't need in subsequent years. So we're gathering that for them, and they've done some testing already. So they do testing for the town and the Board of Education to make sure we have controls in place for accounts payable and payroll and a bunch of other items. Next week they're coming in and we're going to be going through, they basically do it like it's called a walkthrough, and they walk through our different procedures that we have, and then they look for documentation on that walkthrough to make sure that what we tell them we're doing, we're actually doing. And then they will report on that if they find any deficiencies. They do all this also for the Board of Education. And so far so good.
Okay, and I assume the WBOE information is
It's-
there just for us to
Correct.
look at?
For your information, right?
For our information, okay. All right, any other questions on the audit? I hope everybody's okay with the siren.
That's just a call.
Yeah.
It's an actual call. That's,
Okay, next item on our meeting agenda is funding requests. I will entertain a motion for approval of funding request 2425-28 in the amount of $30,000. This has to do with the center electricity.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anything you want to tell us about this?
This, just that I've seen some of the accounts start to be, go down a little as some of the fees have been reduced a little bit. So we're getting some relief on that, but this is what we need for the center building.
Okay, it's coming out of contingency,
Correct.
I assume.
this
Yeah.
is, this is for the end of June.
Correct,
You would, okay.
correct.
When you
Okay.
say fees, Tim, is that
The,
like
the, you know-
kilowatt hour per?
The fees that they had for the,
The public-
Surcharges.
yeah,
Public
surcharges.
usage or whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Public benefits.
For cover
Yeah, 'cause that ended in
Whatever it
April.
is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I've started seeing that, that's impacting a little. So that's good.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay. I need a motion for approval of line item transfer 2425-35 in the amount of $7,500.
Make a motion.
There's a motion from Donovan. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Sure, the town originally, for our POCD process, we planned to have our local COG perform the mapping for us. And so we did not include it in SLR's in their proposal and their scope of work.
Oh,
But due to some staff changes and some staffing issues at the COG, they were unable to perform that service. So this is the supplemental appropriation for that. It's for the base map and all the maps for the POCD.
oh,
So
but
it's-
SLR is doing the work.
Correct, SLR is going to do that. We tried to save some money.
Okay, any questions?
Is there any particular reason we're taking that from inland wetlands?
Just because it was available. No other
Good
reason.
enough, okay.
Yeah.
It's there.
Don't
Because
leave your wallet
actually,
around.
what it worked was
Duly noted.
Christine administers both accounts. So when she called to say that she needed this, she said, you could just take it from my other one in Inland Wetlands.
There's a pile here and a pile there.
Right.
Okay,
There you go.
all right,
Okay.
good, okay.
Right.
All in favor? Makes sense? Any opposition? No abstentions, okay. Oh, and Gabe, you should note Tom's not here, so when these all come out, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. The fire truck is just right there. Just saying, okay,
I didn't
sorry,
read-
Susan,
I
can-
didn't
can I
pick it-
ask
I
one-
didn't pick it up, so I didn't listen.
yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
Of course, yeah,
related to
go
the
ahead.
last thing
Yeah,
we
of
just
course.
approved? For next year's budget, Tony, is that that 7,500, is that gonna increase their actuals for the prior year for inland wetlands?
No, so it'll for next year's budget, it won't impact the actuals, but you'll see an amended budget that's reduced.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Good question. Hang on, let me just put this on mute. Okay. I will entertain a motion for funding request 2425-36 in the amount of $12,425. Is there
So
a,
moved.
okay, and I need a second?
Second.
Tony, you want to explain this?
It's relatively self-explanatory, but the chief had some repairs that were unanticipated. It's getting towards the end of the year, and so he needed some additional funding. One is the assistant chief's vehicle, which you'll remember from our
Oh, yeah,
budget
we
process.
talked about this.
Right.
Right. So this is pretty straightforward
Right.
also. There's nothing terribly, and as usual, we're paying this out of contingency
Correct.
also.
Right.
Okay. Any questions or further discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? Okay, good. I need a motion to approve, funding request 2425-37 in the amount of $5,231.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
It's that $1.
It's that $1 that just gets you every time. Okay. Is there any explanation we need here?
I'm happy to
be
provide
done.
it for the,
Had to be done.
right. It's for the additional hours that were needed for the Board of Assessment Appeals.
Wow.
As we received a large number of appeals this year, more than we usually do, so we didn't have the
Right.
funds in the budget.
Right? Okay. All right, any questions, concerns, issues? Seems pretty straightforward. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? No abstentions, okay.
Probably
Glad
something
we're
we should
spending
note in
that
future years
contingency.
when we do
Fine.
revaluations.
We should increase the
particularly if
budget.
revaluation is like what
Right.
we expected here.
Yeah. Even in revaluation years, we haven't received
Right.
as many as we have this year.
Right. Well, we know this year's been interesting.
Something's going on.
I'm telling you, I'm like watching the drama out here.
What is the call, Dwight?
I don't, I didn't listen to it.
Yeah, well, let's finish what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Okay. I need a motion for funding request 2425-38 in the amount of $2,500.
So moved.
Second.
And this is to fund another electricity deficit. This
Oh.
one is in the former firehouse.
Yeah.
Okay. Straightforward.
Yep.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Good. Okay. Our next agenda item is approval of minutes. I need a motion to approve, hang on, let me get there.
April 24th,
Thank you.
Thursday, April 24th.
Dwight just made a motion.
Second.
I'll motion,
I'll second it.
There you go. Thank you.
You're good.
Any changes, additions, corrections, Beth?
Nope, looks good.
Anybody else?
I think we're missing a motion because it says that Javier Villas submitted a motion seconded by Dwight, subsequently withdrew the motion, and then the Board of Finance voted.
I thought, no, it described it though, when I read it, didn't it?
I think we're missing the second motion that we submitted.
To reduce,
Oh,
no, it says the Board of Finance voted and the people were Aviles and Heller, unanimous. That was the motion.
Yeah,
the
it
second
voted, but
motion.
there's nothing was submitted upon which to vote.
To reduce the capital budget by
wait a minute, let me read it
85,000.
again.
It seems like it's right there in that sentence, what we voted to
To
do.
eliminate 83, and then we
Right.
withdrew the motion.
And reduce public works by 10.
Yeah, but I had to make a motion to do that, to amend.
You did
We
it, and I
did.
seconded it. Board of Finance voted parens, Aviles, Heller.
To reduce the capital budget by
That
85,000.
was
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? It says that we
83,000.
voted, but there's no mention of a motion. Like
Discussion on
it's
elimination.
implied because it says Aviles Heller. So we just might want to make it clear that we voted on a motion.
So I believe, Javier, you'd be more comfortable if it says the Board of Finance, Javier moved, Heller seconded, a motion, and the Board of Finance voted to unanimously reduce the capital budget.
Right.
Did you get that, Gay?
Can you repeat? Move?
Not if I tried. Javier moved
Yeah.
and Heller seconded a motion,
It's actually Aviles move, not Javier.
Yeah.
correct.
Yes.
A motion,
I'm gonna get-
it should be a motion to unanimously reduce the capital budget and put it there, and then the next sentence should be, the Board of Finance unanimously voted
Okay.
to
And then
approve
this-
the motion.
There you go.
And then that sort of clears that up.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Above that sentence, it does say, discussion on the motion ensued, and Javier and Dwight, it probably should say Aviles to be.
Yeah, but there was a motion
No,
made.
no,
but
No,
it
he's
wasn't
saying
acted on.
because it's your first name.
So
Put his
last
first
I see.
name.
So for consistency,
Oh, okay.
it's all
Surprised you
one
didn't
way
get
or
one-
the other.
Get that one, Javier.
Yeah, okay.
I see you looking out for me.
Okay, do we now, so Dwight, can you amend your motion to approve the minutes as amended and
Yes.
corrected?
As a, yep.
And I'll
Okay.
second
So
it
moved.
again as amended.
And Beth will second it again. And I'm gonna burst into song. I second that emotion. Okay, all right, are we done? Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Thank you, Javier, for clarifying.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. Guess who forgot to print out her agenda today? Okay, we're gonna first review the suspense list as item number 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there something you wanna say about all this?
No, it's just, each year the Board of Finance has to approve a suspense list submitted by the tax collector. The suspense list essentially removes these taxes that are due as an asset of the town or liability of the town, right? It's no longer a receivable of the town, but we still try to collect them.
Right, right.
We still do collect them, it's just no longer
I assume they go to council and liens are put on property and
correct.
things like that.
That's correct.
Right. So when the property sells or transacts.
Some of them we send to the marshal.
Right, right.
We'll send
Oh,
some of
that's
these to
right.
marshal
I
now too.
forgot that
Yeah.
Pat the Cowboy is now sending the marshal out.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I have to say, I was sort of surprised that it's not a very big amount of money,
No,
which
that's-
is
this year it is
to
not.
the tax collector's credit.
Most importantly, I don't know anybody on there. I read the
shouldn't
whole
laugh.
thing.
This is
No comment.
called the draft. Do we vote on this?
Oh, you,
or
next
do we-
month you'll vote.
Next month, and I was
Yeah.
gonna say, this is just
This is for
A
you to
For us
review.
prelim.
just to look
Right.
at.
a
Okay.
prelim here.
Just to look
Preliminary,
at.
if you had any questions,
Okay.
wanted some more information, then we
Yeah.
can get that for you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, now item 5A on our agenda is the Moody's submittal, which I'm gonna let you talk about.
Okay. So each year, when every time the town goes to borrow money for debt, we get a credit rating from Moody's. Moody's is one of 3 credit rating agencies. There's Moody's, there's Standard & Poor's, and there's Fitch. But Moody's is used by a lot of smaller towns, and we've used them for many years. So our credit rating was AAA, and credit was confirmed as still at AAA. And when they went through you go through the credit analysis, you can see the credit strengths, which is a very strong resident income, low long-term liabilities and fixed costs. When they say long-term liabilities and fixed costs, they generally mean debt service, pension, and OPEB. Those are the 3 that they look at, and I'll show you in a little bit where you can see that information. And finally, stable financial operations. That has to do with stable, not a lot of large deficits each year. Budgets are approved. Very stable operations. Credit challenges are low reserves and a small population. Low reserves, essentially they mean fund balance. So, I'll go to the next page. You'll see some of the statistics that they're discussing. So our fund balance is what I want to show you. A couple I want to show you. Our fund balance is the halfway down. You'll see it says available fund balance ratio.
Yep.
And we're at 19.2%. That's our total fund balance. The one I give you is our unallocated fund balance. You'll see the AAA median is 62%, almost 63%. So there are towns across the country and cities across the country that have much more volatile sources of revenue, namely income taxes and sales taxes. So therefore, have to have larger reserves in case there's a dip in the economy. Because Connecticut uses property taxes and they're very stable, there's not a need to have such a large fund balance. But we're still low compared to other AAAs, that's what I want to mention. The other item is fixed cost ratio, that's at the bottom. You'll see it's at 10%. And we're at 6.8% and 10% is the average. Those are the ratios of the items above it, which is the pension, debt service, and OPEB. That comes into play here because if you go back to the first page, factors that can lead to a downgrade. One is material decline in cash or reserves. In other words, if our fund balance goes down significantly in a short period of time. Increased leverage with fixed costs above 20%. So if you look at the 3 fixed costs, really the one that would probably could cause this to happen would be debt service, because our pensions are pretty stable and our OPEB, we've done a lot to reduce that liability. So,
Can I ask just a quick question? What
Sure.
is a pension treadwater contribution? It's right below implied debt service.
right, that's our pension.
They call it a treadwater?
I'm not sure why they call it
Okay.
that. But that's our
Yeah.
pension for our
It's a
employees.
financial term for you're treading water. I don't know.
Maybe the pension's.
Hey,
Javier,
least
I don't
what's
think the
the-
pension's treading
Do you
water.
know what that is,
Javier?
You're not sinking.
I know. I just, what is implied? You should know that, Javier, right?
I should, but I don't.
That's your test before next week.
It's a new, it's new for, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I thought you'd find it interesting.
Tony, does Moody's ever contact you or anybody else in town when they prepare these reports?
Yeah, oh yeah, I have
They
to,
do?
so I'm glad you asked that question. So in order to get the credit analysis, I have to go through a lot of preparation to send them information, and then I have an interview. It was about an hour, the interview.
Okay.
They asked me a whole list of questions and for documents and all kinds of stuff. And so that's the process we go through in cooperation with our financial advisor, and then that's how they come up with the report. So some of the stuff they pull from different sources, some of it I give them.
Thank you.
Okay,
So at the moment, we are in good shape.
right. But if you borrow a lot of money,
But if you borrow a lot of money,
right,
and we all know what our next decade looks like.
right. What they would typically do
I
is
mean, that's the reality.
Uh,
we do these,
I'm
we do
just
these.
putting it out
Yeah,
there.
it is.
We'll do these ratings before we borrow the money, and then the rating will then get posted to determine what we will have to borrow the money, what rates we'll have to borrow
Right,
at.
it presumably gives us, it puts us in a better interest rate position,
Right,
right?
right. If you're AAA, then
If
you
you're
are.
AAA,
Then if you're double A,
right.
because there's AAA, double A, single A. So
Right.
if you're double A, then you won't get as
Favorable.
favorable a rate as you would if you're AAA.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, certainly
So-
something for us to be aware of going forward.
Yep.
There's probably about 10 to 12 towns in the state that are AAA.
Uh-huh, so we are in good company.
Yeah.
Beth, they have a definition for pension treadwater contribution. Pension contribution necessary to prevent reported unfunded pension liabilities from growing year over year in nominal dollars if all actuarial assumptions are met.
Did that clear that right up for you?
Oh,
That is treading water.
absolutely. See me, wait a minute, see me after class. I got it.
I think it's
Not-
really important that we just remember
Right.
this is the good days. Because I think it's gonna be a complicated decade.
Good news.
Keeping an
though.
eye
This
on
is
our
good
debt
news.
service as
Yeah,
well, because that
absolutely.
balances it a
Yeah,
little
it
bit.
is good news.
So Tony,
Okay. Oh, sorry.
they dinged us for having a low reserve balance?
Yes.
What would be a,
I think because,
Are they comparing this to that 68%
Right.
number?
so we've constantly have this battle with them that the 68% number is for communities with more volatile sources of revenue. So I think they still ding us on that, but not enough for us to drop a rating.
right?
If I
But,
remember correctly, Tony.
I mean, if we were higher than 20%, they'd probably
There you
be,
go.
you know, we'd be a little better. But
I was gonna say, if I recall what some information that you had provided us in the past, Board of Selectmen meeting where we saw the towns that were AAA. We were like low middle.
correct, that's
So,
correct.
In terms
Yeah,
of those
we're
towns,
low
so even
middle.
in comparison to those, still qualify for the AAA,
Right.
but there are towns that have a better fund balance than we do.
Okay, well, that segues to your first selectmen's report.
Okay. First and foremost, what we're doing, and I'm doing in particular, is preparing for our town meeting this Monday at 7:30, the annual town meeting. One of the other major activities, one of the things that we'll, certainly be discussing, along with the budget and the budget approval, is we're holding a special meeting specifically to have the town weigh in on a solar farm proposal project that we're looking to put on, specifically on top of the landfill.
Acorn Hill. right
Acorn
up.
Hill,
Right.
exactly, at the transfer station on top of the landfill. So it should bring us, it's really a lease arrangement. It's not a, we're not tapping into the electricity that's generated, but rather we're providing the land for them to utilize for that. It's a 1 kilowatt, which is somewhat significant in terms of the size, and we're hoping that we can move forward with that project once we get the town input and close that out. The rest of the town meeting is related to the budget. I'll also provide an update in terms of some of the projects we've been working on and some of the activity that's going on, not the least of which is things that are happening as relates to the country club. one of the primary things from a Board of Selectmen standpoint that we're looking at now is our different options to see what we can do to mitigate the impact of revaluation for those residents who were severely impacted, knowing that a number of those residents appear to be are elderly, and in some of the smaller homes in Woodbridge. So we're looking at we're going to start looking at a number of different options with the intent in the next 3 to 4 months of coming up with a plan or plans that might help mitigate that for some of those residents. Keeping in mind and making sure that everyone understands anything that's mitigated is made up by everyone else in town, so to speak, and it's usually done in the form of a mill rate increase along those lines. So we're working with our legal team to determine if we can do that and impact on the next tax bill. We're still kind of working that through, but that's something that we'll need to work through ordinance in order to really get something done. So we're going to try to get that started as quickly as possible and see what we can get done as quickly as possible as a priority. I also wanted just to, as I did with the Board of Selectmen, just indicate that we recently had our Earth Day event, which was a tremendous success in the rain. Usually it's held outdoors in this whole area here. Really wanted to give a big shout out to the fire department, because not only did they provide us with a rather substantial space and covering out of the rain, keep us out of the rain, but their volunteers really were there to help us set up, do everything that needed to be done. We would not have been able to have the type of event that we did have without their assistance and without the availability of that space. And to give you some idea, this was the library measures foot traffic coming in and out of the library on a regular basis. It was the most people who went in and out of the library ever. And they usually hold that day.
Wow.
That Saturday.
Wow.
And they also made more money on the book sale than they ever have for the times that they've been holding that.
Awesome.
So
Good
win-win.
for them. Lovely.
We had a number of businesses and vendors who were offering things. One of them was the Micro Creamery down in the Katz and Starbucks Plaza. They sold out, and many of the other vendors really had a very successful day. But it was just one of those events. We had actually, when we tried to metric it out, we had more people than we had last year. So it was a rainy day. It was not a pleasant day. So it turned out to be a wonderful event, and we tried a different tactic with the street cleaning, and I'm sorry, it's escaping. Basically, people volunteer to pick up the litter on different streets. You know, people who take walks and then they carry the bag, they leave them for Public Works to come pick up. Rid Litter Day, thank you. And that turned out to be more successful. We had about 23 streets in town that people volunteered to go pick up garbage. What they did is the next day, rather than doing it on the same day, we found last year we tried doing it on the same day, and it didn't work. So we did it Sunday, and we also did a shredding the next day, which was also very, very successful. So all told, and the reason I'm saying it as passionately as I am is because I had to deliver a few things to the people who are putting it together. The Sustainability Committee puts this together, and with the help of a lot of other people. There were resources from the library and recreation and the police department, as I said, the fire department. So it's a wonderful event in the sense of it really takes the community. It does take the village that you talk about. But to see the amount of actual physical work in terms of setting it up, taking it down, in the organization and what they did and how they set it up, it just a tremendous job to Hillary Drum, Tom Kenefleck's co-chair, and their committee just did a tremendous job. So I did want to make sure folks were aware of that as well. Center building, we received the last report a couple of weeks ago, just before Earth Day. As a matter of fact, the Thursday before Earth Day, we received the final report we were waiting for from the Yale Occupational Health group that we engaged to work with us on there. We got a very favorable report that there was very little reason to be concerned about what was found there. So as a result, we did open up more of the building, including our fitness center. And that hallway there is completely open. We're going to keep the child care center because there are some areas there with asbestos that we just as soon not have spread anywhere. So we're keeping that closed since it's not being used at this point in time. And there is more work we need to do there, and we're hopeful that will hear in regard to a steep grant that we've applied for in order to get some of the work done that we need in the building there. I think we're up to about $150,000, or a little over $150,000 as we spent on this so far, and it's not done yet. So we have more that we need to do. Memorial Day, we have our annual Memorial Day service. It's 11 o'clock right in front of the center building there. Barry Josephs is once again spearheading the effort and hosting that event. It really is a great way to start Memorial Day before you get into the picnics and the enjoyment of your families, just to really take a moment and consider what the day is really about. So I certainly urge everyone who can to attend.
He does a great job.
He really
Barry
does.
all
He's
of
so
it.
passionate
He's already
about it.
called me. He wants me to be part of this program, so.
Excellent. Yeah, it is.
Because I was in the Air Force, so.
Yeah, it's,
Just for clarity, you're doing it on the Monday.
yes, it is on Memorial Day itself, the
On
29th, if
Memorial
I'm
Day
not
morning.
mistaken. Is
Yeah.
it 29th? I think it's
No.
29th. No?
That's why I mixed up. The 31st is
something like that.
It is the Memorial
26th.
Day Monday, 26th, thank you.
26th.
I think
yeah.
it's the 26th.
26.
And the last thing I'll mention is, we took time out and awarded Brad Parsons a citation. I mentioned Earth Day, I mentioned the center building. Brad and his team are at the center of those things. When I say the work that they do, it's astounding. And Brad has, through my many months now in this position, has been a close collaborator, helps in any way that he can. And I just felt compelled to do something to acknowledge the type of work that he does. I mean, there's a lot of great people doing a lot of great things here, but he's gone above and beyond in so many different cases. Not a word he doesn't grouse about it, just goes ahead and does his job and offers and is willing to offer. He's taken over, for example, we're starting an energy program, and he's in the thick of that, working with different vendors in terms of putting together a program for all our buildings to determine, what we need to do from an energy perspective.
Yeah.
And
He's got a
so
wealth of knowledge. He knows these buildings back.
inside out,
Yeah.
inside
And
out.
it's so great.
So it's
Yeah.
really good if you had
Yeah.
an issue, at least he probably can, if he doesn't know the answer, he can steer you in the right.
And his attitude in terms of the attitude he brings to it is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's reflected in terms of his guys.
Yeah.
Because every single one of them have the same type of work ethic, have the
Yeah.
same type of willingness to help. And
got a good
it really
group.
says a
He's
lot,
got a
not
really
only
good
about what
group.
he does, but also about his leadership and what's happening there. So thought I'd mention that as well. But the big thing that we're working on now is we need to try to see what we can do. We recognize the impact of revaluation. It's not something that we have a lot of ability to do things with, but we're going to see if we can find some way to do what we can. And obviously, this group will be in the thick of that as we progress, and we'll keep you informed as to what's happening.
Good.
Any
good.
questions for Mika?
How long has Brad been with
and
the,
one
with the
of-
town?
Over 30 years.
30 years. It's
Over
impressive.
30
Is that
years.
impressive? It is impressive.
And then one other thing, I just
Unbelievable.
want to thank Mika for coming for our baseball opening day.
Oh,
He had
nice.
thank God it was great.
It was a
Nice-
beautiful day.
It was a great, he and Paula gave the all-star team a nice,
Citation.
frame.
That was the group that went to the
Presentation.
World Series, right?
Yes.
Or-
Yeah, the team that went to the World
Yeah.
Series, and
Wow.
they recognized it all, that was really special.
I mentioned to Brad,
So
Rosalie
nice.
Rosalie Rowland actually brought up, wouldn't it be nice if we did like what UConn does when the women or the men win the national championship on
Put a street
I-84, and
sign.
you're going, but put a sign that says, welcome to Woodbridge, home of the, and as I say, true to form, Brad is working with us to see what we can do along those lines,
Nice.
particularly on 67, because that's where most people
Right,
come in
most people, yeah.
from Acorn, so at least if we can do it there.
That's a
so.
good idea, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be really great.
Yeah, it's something that doesn't happen that often.
No,
It's not
no.
it's not a huge expense.
First time in my
And-
lifetime,
Right.
and, whatever, it's
No,
been, it was
Stevens' team
unbelievable
only made it to the
experience.
New England.
Okay, thank you.
So
You're welcome.
amazing. That's good.
Any other liaison reports from anybody? In that case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay,
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
done.